Today on our 2011 Honda Rancher, we're going to be installing the Superwinch LT2000 ATV winch, part number 1120210. We'll also be using the ATV winch mount kit, part number 2202889, designed specifically for the Honda Rancher. To begin our install, we'll remove the black bumper cover from the ATV. You have the two bolts on the bottom of the bumper cover, and on the top here are two push pins. With our front bumper cover removed, we'll go ahead and loosen up the lower cover. Which will allow it to flex, like so. We can now take our bottom plate spacer and our main plate, 2 1/4 by 3/4 bolts and their nuts. Within the frame of the ATV here, we'll take the spacer block and place it in to take up the space within this frame. We can then take our main plate, line up the holes that are already there with the frame, slide our bolt through. We can then put the nut on the other side and tighten it down. With our main plate attached to the frame here, we'll install the U-bolts. Now that we've worked our U-bolts over the frame of the ATV, we can put the nuts on the back side. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and install our winch. We'll need our spacer plates, 2 bolts supplied with the winch, washers, and the nuts. Now, our winch will go in from the left side if you're sitting in the seat. You'll want to make sure that the winch spools off of the top of the drum. That's how you'll know that it is in correctly. We'll take our spacer block and our bolt and feed it through our top mount, and then put the winch through the bolt using our 2 washers, flat washer and the lock washer. We can then install the nut. And we'll repeat this process for the other mounting point of our winch. And with our hardware loosely fitted, we'll go ahead and install the smaller bolt, also included with the winch, into the remaining bolt hole of our bracket that's open, just to kind of hold the spacer in place. And with all our fasteners loosely fitted, we'll go ahead and tighten them down with a wrench. And with that, our winch is secured, and we can move on to the roller fair lead. Now, after gathering the hardware to install the roller fair lead, we'll pre-assemble it before we mount it onto the vehicle. You'll notice the 2 round spacers within the tubes that surround the bolt. These prevent the tubes from collapsing while you're tightening it down. We'll now go ahead and feed it through the 2 holes in the main plate, where we can put the nylon nuts on the back side and tighten them down. And with our fair lead now installed, we need to get our cable through. So we'll go ahead and loosen up one of the horizontal rollers, where we can slide the bolt out and remove our roller. We can then bring our cable up through the fair lead and reinstall our roller. Now, you don't want to tighten the roller too much, as it does need to roll to prevent the cable from binding or damaging. We'll now go ahead and install the 2 lower bolts back into the lower skid plate that we took out earlier. We'll go ahead and install this bolt here on the lower cover. When installing this bolt, we do need to put in this extension, which will allow us to attach the upper front bumper cover. Now, you'll want to leave this bolt slightly loose so that your bracket can move around a little bit while we install the upper cover. We'll then go back and tighten it down later. And we'll repeat the same process of installing the other bracket on the other side. Now, we'll need to locate an ignition source for our winch that will only allow the winch to work when the key is in the on position. We've gone ahead and removed the light cluster from our four-wheeler, located the ignition key wiring itself, found a wire that is only hot when the key is turned on, and tapped into it. Now, we went ahead and found a location for our solenoid box and secured it to the frame. We then routed our wires along the frame following the factory wiring harness, where we secured it to the body of the ATV and made our connections to our winch. We also went ahead and connected our switch here at the green and black wires. We'll go ahead and tuck those into the factory wire harness to give it a nice clean look. Now we brought our battery wires up through, again following the factory harness, around to the battery. We connected our circuit breaker in line with our positive lead to our battery and taped it up so that it doesn't have a chance of hitting anything metal and shorting out on us. We can simply tuck that out of the way and bring it around to our positive battery terminal where we'll make our connection. We'll then repeat that process for our ground side of our winch. Before you reassemble your four-wheeler, you may want to go ahead and turn your four-wheeler on and test the winch's operation. Our installation is complete. Now we can go ahead and reinstall our front upper bumper, and that'll complete the Superwinch LT2000 ATV winch, part number 1120210.